Miss Summer, I'm sorry, I don't have the last name up here. Kendall, thank you, I'm sorry, Summer Kendall, to lead us in our invocation and pledge of allegiance.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for that. We will move on to agenda item 3, additions and deletions. Alderwoman Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I need to add item, I guess it's on, 5C, for, the application for advisory committee or board for Richard Alexander, and also remove 7C, new business resolution, 2022-7, disposition of personal property.
Thank you. Are there any other additions or deletions? If not, we will move on to the approval of the agenda. Alderwoman Cooper.
I make a motion to approve the agenda with the noted corrections.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Thompson.
I second the motion.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, question.
Alderman Palacios.
Okay, so, that, Richard Alexander, that was being added as 5C, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, 5C, and then we're removing new business 7C.
Correct.
Can we get a reason for that one, or?
Mr. Graham, would you?
Yes, I'd be glad to do that. Had a meeting today with the LGC, and they have taken action, similar action previously, back in January this year. And so the LGC took that action because of their current financial management status here, then that supersedes anything that we would do. So essentially, it's already in place, and we will move forward with the disposition of the properties that were identified in the agenda item.
Okay, so, for future reference, this isn't something that would be coming to the board if there's another surplus?
Anything that's related, well, yeah, anytime there's a sale going forward, the town manager, along with the finance director, which is LGC, will make that decision and dispose of that property in accordance with state law.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. No further questions.
All right, the motion still stands. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we will move on to the approval of the consent. Oh, we just did that, didn't we? No, we didn't. We did the agenda. Approval of consent items 5A and B, draft minutes from the April 25th regular meeting, and the board appointment for Spring Lake Board of Aldermen, or excuse me, Board of Adjustment, Roshalendo Biagas, I hope I didn't stir that up too badly, and the approval for Richard Alexander. Alderman Palacios.
So moved?
Is there a second?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent items have been approved. We will now move on to public comments. We will begin with Mr. Christian. Please state your name and address.
Okay, this is James Christian, 709 Review Drive here in Spring Lake, former Alderman. I'd like to talk about the invocation. I'm going to read you a prepared statement. First step is to eliminate Christians from the invocation. The second step is to eliminate the Pledge of Allegiance. And the third step is to eliminate the American flag. Now, I come from the last generation that grew up without social media and smartphones. And I finally remember pouring quarters into the slot of a phone booth, payphone from overseas. What does all this mean? Well, it allows me to be aware of my past, where I come from, and this also allows me to a glimpse into the future, and I see a future of a woke agenda emerging. A desire to cancel out our past and any connection to it. Dare I say, even Christianity? It's obvious this is a controversial subject, and it's evident steps have been taken to sweep the subject under the rug and sneak it through a quick vote. But the town has other higher priorities than pursuing a personal agenda. And that's what this is, a personal agenda, when we should be focusing on finances and rebuilding this town. So I urge the Board of Aldermen to vote no on this subject and first have a public meeting to hear the voices of the public and not avoid the passing coalition by dropping this item from past agendas. It does a disservice to our open government to do so. And please, Mayor, answer the press when they ask for comments. They want to hear your point of view. So I urge everybody to vote against this invocation change policy. You know, the 10 years I served, there's never a controversy. We've never denied anybody a chance to do the invocation. Anybody that wanted to come do it, do it. If you didn't like what you hear, just walk out of the room or sit down and don't pay attention to it. We had a Quaker fellow that used to live here in town. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but Mr. Robert was a very good person. If he didn't like hearing the Pledge of Allegiance, or he didn't agree with his views, or he left the room during the Pledge of Allegiance or the invocation. It's easy enough to do. Anybody can do an invocation. But don't restrict people's personal views, and don't restrict Christianity. And by pursuing this, I wouldn't say unconstitutional, because everybody says that we're unconstitutional, but we haven't violated the Constitution at all. That's just a hot flash message that we violated the Constitution. We haven't at all. So I urge people to vote against this, the Board of Aldermen to vote against this.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. That would be your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. We will now move on to Mr. Jerry Watkins.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Jerry.
How are you?
Great, thank you.
Yes, I want to speak about Main Street. Now, I've been here since '72, and everywhere that Saturday, from then to now, Main Street has been like this. We got old buildings from the '70s. All of that needs to be torn down and rebuilt up to date. Now, I don't understand why it took this long, all these years, for somebody to get up and do the right thing. I expect to see that. I expect to see change in Spring Lake. This is why we hired you. This is why you were hired to do this. I expect that. Everybody that sat in this seat didn't do nothing. But this time, I expect something. And there's nothing to do here. So I'm asking to put a voting line in here. Something that people could do. There's nothing here. I hear this all over Spring Lake. Nothing here, nothing here. And they're right, there is nothing here. All these years, no one sat in this seat and done nothing. I've been to every meeting. I don't really see what we can do. I don't wanna hear that no more. I expect change in this city. But I don't see no change in this city. Well, I'm gonna go to the governor. The governor can do it. I expect change. This is why we hired you and got rid of that other board member. We don't want none of that. We want change, we want new, and also people walk around with their behind hanging out. I'm tired of seeing that. We need a law here. $100 a day, I don't care how you do it. We need to change that. And the drugs here, you know, it's easy to get rid of drugs. This is what Fort Bragg is there for. So we need to get drugs out of our town. We need to straighten this town, get this town straightened up so we can have our military back in here, get our but that's all I want to say, Rob. I'm so glad that we have you here. I know you all are going to do the right thing. This is why we hired you. And
Mr.
you all,
Mr. Watkins, I believe that was your time.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
We will next move on to Mr. John Sanchez. I don't believe he is available or present. So we will move on to our last public comment by Frederica Sutherland. Please state your name and address. I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I'll state my address, but I'm just wondering why in the package that you blacked out the individual's address that wants to serve. But anyway, my name is Reverend Frederica Sutherland. I'm at 1009 Lisa Circle, Spring Lake, North Carolina, 42 years. Good evening, Board of Aldermen, citizens, and happy belated Mother's Day to all. I stand on behalf of comments. It started out when you all were elected, talking about the invocation. The invocation is an invocation. Doesn't take that long. We have more pressing issues that we need to deal with in this great town of Spring Lake. To build our foundation up, we need to work together. I believe that I think that if you look at that policy that you're proposing, Mr. Durham, on number 2, really not understanding it, what you're proposing. But I feel that it should be left alone as it is to give the invocation. Anyone who wants to give an invocation should be able to give the invocation. This is their town, but I don't feel like it should be altered. I don't pray to a generic God that wakes me up as well as this town. On number 2, it says the town clerk will schedule individuals of local faith and organization to offer invocation, volunteer basis. But my question is, because I can read on, and then it says they should contact the clerk if they want to give a invocation. Then it says we can offer a moment of silence. Normally, that's in a crisis if someone was deceased or whatever the case may be, when you offer a moment of silence. So I think that as board members, we should understand what an invocation is opposed to a prayer, and it should not be generic. So I do stand on behalf of this great town, and for the 16 years that I've served, we've never had a problem with the invocation. So, as well as the town, I serve on the Appearance Commission. I served on the Appearance Commission before I was elected to the board. if you're coming into the entry of the town, is both ways, the grass, the trash. Thank you, Mr. Lackman, for when I was out picking up trash, that you felt the need to want to carry it on, because it is important. And that roundabout, when we had the cleanup, I cleaned it up by myself. I think I spoke to Mayor Anthony, and you stated how bad it looked, but it still looks bad. And I felt that if you stated that, because I told the individual that you would get that taken care of, but the grass needs to be cut, trash needs to be picked up. We have employees that used to go around and pick that trash up, as well as the citizens need to take responsibility as well, and not just throw trash out. But we can't make everybody, we need to enforce the ordinance, and I think I've stated that on the appearance commission, if people are blatantly just throwing trash out. Thank you for your time, and I ask you all to do the right thing for this great town of Spring Lake, and not a personal agenda. Be blessed.
Thank you, Ms. Sutherland. We will now move on to agenda item 7, new business. And we will start with our Building Safety Month resolution. So I will begin by reading our Building Safety Month proclamation. Whereas our town's continuing efforts to recognize that our growth and strength depends on the safety and the economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that we serve our citizens both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, laborers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians, dedicated members of the International Code Council, use the government consensus process that brings together local, state, and federal officials with expertise in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect Americans in the buildings where they live, learn, work, and worship and play. And whereas our nation benefits economically and technologically from the use of international codes that are developed by a national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organizations, and is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes in the world. And whereas Building Safety Month it's sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our communities, largely unknown guardians of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas safer buildings, safer communities, safer world, the theme for the Building Safety Month 2022, encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, natural disaster mitigation, and new technologies in the construction industry. Building Safety Month 2022 encourages appropriate steps everyone can take to ensure the safety of our built environment, and recognizes that the implementation of safety codes by local and state agencies have saved lives and protected homes and businesses. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve the building safety and economic investments at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building department, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Spring Lake Board of Aldermen hereby recognizes and supports the Building Safety Month 2022, adopted the 9th day of May 2022. All right, I will now entertain a motion to approve the resolution. Alderman Palacios.
Make a motion, we approve the resolution Building Safety Month, May 2022.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Cooper.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the resolution carries. We will now move on to 7B, the discussion of the invocation policy guidance. Mr. Durham.
I'll start the discussion, and the intent here is to, based upon conversations that we've had previously among this board, with this board, regarding some type of invocation policy, then this is a discussion opportunity for the board. You have in front of you a drafted resolution by the Board of Town of Spring Lake regarding the adoption of a policy, and also the Spring Lake invocation policy guidance. The first sentence on the resolution says, whereas legislative prayer at Alderman meeting has long been understood as compatible with the establishment clause of the U.S. Constitution. And this is being done, again, based upon legislative action, Supreme Court cases that have come before that. There is in order to comply with that, you cannot show a preference for a particular religion. Now, there are some boards that have not taken any action on it. Some boards have eliminated invocation completely from their meetings. They don't have an invocation. It may say pledge of allegiance, or they do none of that, go straight into the meetings. There's many who have adopted policies. And again, so this board has the opportunity or option regarding all of those. And again, this was done for discussion purposes, and you see on section 2, and under the resolution, invocation may be offered prior to meetings on a rotating first come, first served basis. And as an alternative, a group or individual having no religious affiliation may request an opportunity for a brief statement. Again, it is giving anyone the opportunity to provide some type of invocation or even a moment of silence. And a moment of silence in a lot of places has been used as a reflection upon events in a particular community, or just to be thankful for being here at the meeting this evening. Those are the types of things that have occurred at different meetings. The second page of that actually has the Spring Lake invocation policy guidance. Again, these are draft policies or draft guidance information for you to consider. First one there is the invocation may be used as a pre-agenda item. I'm going to read word for word. And the second one there says the town clerk will schedule individuals from local faith-based organizations to offer an invocation on a voluntary basis. This is done on a first come, first served basis. So whoever wants to provide an invocation or not has the opportunity to contact the clerk to sign up for that to occur. And also the item number 4, any group having no religious affiliation may request an opportunity to have a brief statement to reflect the gravity of the moment, seek peace, understanding. And again, this guidance is drafted from policies that have been approved by other jurisdictions across the state and also across the nation. Items number 6, the Board of Aldermen serves constituents of all faiths, expresses no faith preference, and recognizes faith as superior or inferior to others. No faith is superior or inferior to others. Item 7, some Alderman meetings will not have anybody scheduled, so in that case, the chair or the mayor may ask for a moment of silence or call someone from the audience. I mean, those are all the options that are available. Number 8, no member of the Alderman, public, or governments may be required or expected to participate in any type of invocation. And again, number 9, of course, there's no compensation being provided to anyone to provide an invocation. Again, this is strictly on a voluntary basis. It allows for invocation to occur. It allows for that to be done through signing up in advance, and it allows for that, gives a free rein to what that person, to who can actually come before this board and offer an invocation. And again, it is an opportunity for discussion at this stage, and I'll be glad to respond to any questions or listen to the feedback.
Alderwoman Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. I first want to thank the staff for putting this together. I think they did a really great job, and it makes it clear that we're not in any way trying to remove the invocation, but it actually opens it up to more people, because what we want is more participation from the community. So I do appreciate that work, and I'm glad that, you know, it was clarified that we're not removing it. We're just opening this up for other people to have an opportunity to come from different faiths, to come before the town and give the invocation. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Alderman Lackman?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Durham, Ms. Pereira, thank you very much for the efforts that you put forth into creating a document. This is the fourth time that this has come up on the agenda. As an alderman, I came here to serve the people. I came here to work and to try to improve this town going forward. Tonight, I hope that as we go forward, that this becomes the last time that this comes forward. I am here to serve the people. I'm here to do the work that needs to be done. So tonight, board members, I call upon you, let's put this to bed once and for all.
I agree. Anyone else? Alderman Palacios?
Does this call for a vote tonight? I know this is here for discussion, and the agenda page on it says information only. So is it up to the board to decide whether we want to go ahead and make a motion on this?
You could choose to amend, you could choose not to take any action, you could choose to take action at a future date, or you could take action this evening. So those are all options that are available to you.
Anyone? Mayor Pro Tem?
If no one signs up, I have a question, if no one signs up, I think that if one of the board members would like to get an invitation, they should be allowed to do it as well.
Excuse me.
Can that be taken into consideration?
Well, we wanted to try to stay away from the board. That's the whole point, is to get away from the board administering the invocation, simply because we are in a position of influence. We are in a position of stature, and we have to be an unbiased representation of our community. When we are on this dais, we have to be representative of all 12,058 residents of Spring Lake, and they're not all Christian, they're not all Muslim, they're not all Buddhist. And so when we present it, it could be construed as influential or proselytizing, meaning we're putting this out, and this is all to protect us from any sort of litigation, any sort of backlash. This is not an attack on Christianity. This is not an attempt to remove religion. This is us protecting ourselves by way of legislation, so that we are one representative of the entire community and not of our personal beliefs. When we are on the dais, it is not about what we believe personally. It is about being direct reflections of our community. So we take ourselves off and we put on an unbiased representation of our community. So we open it up and allow the community to present, and not coming from us.
No.
Then go ahead and vote.
Alderman Palacios?
Thank you. So, here on the dais, we were elected and we are leaders in our community. And I feel like every bit of it is personal. We make our personal decisions on everything that comes before this board. And it's my opinion that the policy itself is not a requirement. It's not a requirement of the law. I think that merely inviting the public to do the invocation in their form and their, with their religious beliefs is sufficient to cover and protect us, as you're stating, Mayor. And I think as long as we keep this open to everybody and don't shut anybody out, then I think we're doing the appropriate thing. In that we shouldn't be governed, we shouldn't have this guidance and go strictly by this guidance, because there are going to be times, as noted in line or number 7. There are going to be meetings, emergency meetings also, where we're going to have to come before, and conduct business. That was unforeseen, and so in those cases, we're defaulting to a moment of silence for this guidance. But as Mayor Pro Tem stated, it can be up to the board to do that. In the prior agenda, we had talked about how in the citing with the case that was presented, I believe it was Greece, North Carolina, that all of those sightings there were 4 sightings, and they were all based on the same overall opinion. So there were 4 findings that formulated that one opinion, and one of those findings was that the indications were only delivered by the board. It wasn't that, and so merely by opening up to the public as we did today, I think that would be enough to cover that. I mean, I'm not a legal expert, so I apologize, but it's my understanding that no guidance itself, no actual policy is necessary. And I think as long as we open it up as we did tonight, and we will continue to do regardless of the motions that we make tonight, I think we'd be covered with that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, if it's appropriate, Ms. Charleston, are we able to make a motion to deny this policy?
Yes, I am.
Yes, we are.
You can make a motion to pass it.
Okay.
I mean, as Mr. Durham indicated, you can do a number of things. You can vote to approve the resolution. You can vote to deny it, or you can take no action at all with respect to the resolution. I think it was presented tonight mostly as a discussion item because of the discussions that were raised at earlier meetings regarding the possibility that the town might not be in compliance with applicable law. And the School of Government and other case law have kind of given guidance as to what the expectations are with respect to the prayer issue. So to answer your question again, you can move to adopt the resolution, not take any action at all, or, officially, if you wanted to take action to not approve it. But really, typically what happens, there has to be a motion to approve. If there's no motion to approve it, then it doesn't move forward.
Alderman Black.
Thank you, Mr. Charleston. Thank you, Madam Mayor. At this point, I would like to move that we reject the proposed resolution and invocation policy guidance and procedures and continue with our accepted practices.
Is there a second? Alderwoman Thompson?
I second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Alderwoman Cooper.
I do want to say that I think it's important that we do have policies, and I do believe this was a well put together, well thought out policy that doesn't exclude anyone. But I understand everybody having, not wanting to move forward. I think there may be a couple of tweaks that would have made it a better policy. Like Mayor Pro Tem saying, allowing board members to sometimes give it, but I understand everybody's indifference, negative connotations towards it. So I just wanted to say that I do think it was a well-prepared policy, and that we should probably consider it in the past, because it's always important to have policies. We don't have a written policy, and it's important to have policies for not just us, but for boards in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Mayor?
Yes.
I might add, I know there's a motion on the floor, and I might add that the board also could consider allowing management to come back again, taking into consideration some of what we've heard from the members of this board this evening, rather than taking a vote to reject the policy in its entirety, because it is important for the town to be in compliance with the law. And so I would suggest, for your consideration, that the board could simply ask management to come back with some additional guidance based on the comments from the members of the board this evening, if that would be appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Charleston. Alderman Palacios?
Thank you, Ms. Charleston, Mayor. So I agree that we can be in compliance with the law, but I think we can do that without having the policy.
Again, I'd like to echo the sentiments of Alderwoman Cooper. This isn't just for the current administration. This is also to set a precedence for incoming administrations. We won't always be here, and we won't always, have a board that, will be able to work without a policy. So this isn't just, taking into consideration this term with us in position. This is taking into consideration boards in the future to make sure that there are guidelines already in place to make sure that we always operate within our North Carolina Constitution and the Constitution and laws of the United States. So again, this is not an attack on religion. This is not an attack on Christianity. This is not a personal agenda. This is about protecting the town from any litigation now and going forward. We want to be inclusive to all people. We want to make sure that we have community involvement, community engagement. This gives every person the right, the same way our United States Constitution gives us a right to the freedom of religion. We want to make sure that we are giving our community a right to the freedom of religion, and that's what this policy does. And it's not just for us in the moment, it's for boards going forward. Alderman Latham.
Mayor, thank you. Mr. Charleston, this draft policy has had the purview of aldermen and staff looking over this. So to me, while I appreciate the efforts that is put forward, my motion still stands, and I'm ready to vote.
Is there any further discussion? The motion still stands. All in favor of removing the policy? Or, I'm sorry, can you restate your motion?
The motion is we move to reject the proposed resolution and invocation policy guidance and procedures and continue on with our accepted practices.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries to remove the prayer policy completely. Okay. Let's move on to agenda item 7B, the update on the state auditor findings. Alderman Palacios.
Thank you, Mayor. And so back in 2020, the audit committee was formed here in Spring Lake under the previous board, and recently we had appointed members of this new board to that audit committee. That is Mayor Anthony, Alderman, Alderwoman Cooper, and myself. And at this recent meeting, we have some talking points that I'm going to share with you today, and this will be shared after the meeting. I'll share it, I know, via my Facebook page, my Alderman Facebook page, and of course, we'll be happy to share it to the public as well. But we had a meeting recently, our first meeting, and we wanted to kind of have an understanding as board members, and obviously to share with the public some updates to the recent audit investigation that was performed on our town and released. So the members that were present at this meeting, which happened on May 5th, were the mayor, Alderwoman Cooper, and myself. And Mayor Anthony was appointed as chair. I was appointed as secretary. Now, we had discussed a review of our audit committee guidelines. We discussed the addition of an ad hoc member from the public. And we reviewed the state audit findings and responses and a proposed committee work plan. It was noted that the LGC has waived the requirement for the fiscal year audit 2020 to 2021 for the town of Spring Lake. And we are underway for the fiscal year 2022 audit. It was decided that the main focus of the committee's work would be responding to and focusing on the findings and corrective actions from the state auditor. Again, it was determined that an ad hoc committee member from the public would be appointed. An ad hoc committee member is just essentially a citizen like we appoint to our other committees, and we're inviting anyone from the public with financial background to be part of that committee by way of completing an application and going through a review process. These meetings will be open to the public, and the next meeting is June 9th at 5:30 p.m. and it'll be happening here at Town Hall. The interim town manager reviewed with the group a summary of the findings and corrective actions noted by the town. During the review, it was noted that many corrective actions have been taken, and there are also many items that have yet to be addressed. At the next meeting of the committee, which is the June 9th meeting that I referred to, the interim town manager will prepare a list of what has been developed and executed and what remains to be done. The list will include parties responsible and a timetable. There was a discussion on the preparation of a code of ethics for all board members to adhere to, and sample documents will be prepared and reviewed for consideration. And there was a discussion that all the work of the committee would be open and transparent. The Board of Aldermen and staff will continue to work with the LGC collaboratively. The town's website will include updates from the audit committee, and a report will be given monthly at the Board of Aldermen meetings. Of course, I did want to add that one of those findings had to do with the safeguarding of personal property, which was a policy that was adopted by the LGC back in January that Mr. Durham referred to earlier in this meeting. And that is getting an accurate count of our vehicles here in town. Was there any discussion? It's open now. Anything that I've missed? Any questions from the other board members? Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Palacios. All right, well, we are going to go ahead and wrap up with agenda item 8. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Alderwoman Cooper.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Alderman Matson.
I second that motion.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?